not sure. I don't buy for a minute that he's going to prison without getting out of here somewhere and stashing $2 billion or whatever. I think he has that kind of power, meaning Sean himself. But remember, it goes a lot deeper than that.
Shannon Sharpe says he's temporarily stepping away from ESPN in the wake of a $50 million lawsuit accusing him of rape. A woman filed suit against Sharpe on Sunday, accusing him of raping her twice.
The curtain has been pulled back on a world most of us could only imagine in tabloid whispers and vague rumors. Shannon Sharpe, the celebrated Hall of Famer and media icon, of a scandal so sprawling, so layered in intrigue that it feels like the plot of a Hollywood thriller. But this isn't fiction. This is real life. Revelations start with a man who knows the shadowy corners of celebrity life better than most. Shannon's former bodyguard.
You are literally, it's an unhealthy space. And so eventually you're going to go too far. You know, who knows what happened to Philip? Who knows what he had to do in order to get to where he was at? There's a lot of things that people do that end up sitting and they can't get over it. And they got to keep getting high, hoping to get it out of their head. You know, but when you lose your man card.
Now let's talk about the footage. When Shannon's ex-bodyguard Saka zoomed to social media to drop a bombshell, the internet practically imploded. In a post that was soon deleted, but not before screenshots spread like wildfire, Zumba made a jaw-dropping claim. Shannon Sharpe had been a regular at Diddy's infamous parties, those gatherings that had circles for years. And according to Zumba, they weren't just parties. They were something darker. Something much more complicated. Zumba alleged that Shannon wasn't just an attendee at these events, he was immersed in them. And the most chilling accusation? That Shannon had crossed lines no one should cross, including being linked to individuals who were far too young to own one so reportedly extreme. The bodyguard's claims were as specific as they were explosive, pointing to a particular incident where Shannon allegedly met a 17-year-old at one of these get-togethers. That single tweet, cryptic but packed with implications, was enough to ignite a firestorm. FNDA, that Ninja Shannon met his 304 at a Diddy party when she was 17, the post read. The tweet disappeared almost as quickly as it appeared, but the damage was done. Screenshots circulated, discussions erupted, and suddenly whispers about those notorious gatherings became shouts. But let's zoom out for a moment. Diddy's parties, exactly were they? For years they've been described as glamorous, exclusive, and shrouded in secrecy. But recent revelations suggest they were something altogether more sinister. Those who dared to speak up have painted a picture of events that were less power, control, and exploitation. The so-called freak-offs, as they were known, were reportedly orchestrated spectacles involving high-profile guests and, allegedly, orchestrated performances that pushed moral boundaries to their limits.
What is that? What do you mean by that?
You give up your ability, your right to being a man. A man don't take it, a man gives it. So when you give up that man card, you don't get that back.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm saying what I'm saying.
According to federal investigations, these weren't just wild parties. They were something meticulously planned. The settings were curated down to the smallest detail, lighting perfect for recording, supply engineered to strip away inhibitions. And here's where it gets even darker. There are claims that these events were documented, cameras hidden in plain sight, recording everything, creating a vault of footage that, if it exists, could destroy reputations and careers in one fell swoop. And this is where Shannon's name keeps coming up, because allegedly he wasn't just a passive attendee. According to Zumba and other industry insiders, Shannon had a role in this world, a role that could now come back to haunt him. Imagine knowing there might be a tape out there, a recording that could not only confirm your presence, but reveal actions that could shatter your public image forever. That's the kind of pressure Shannon is reportedly under right now, as the very existence of such tapes is debated in hushed tones and backroom conversations.
That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Got punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man. So I believe that's a big problem with a lot of the actors out there because they get fluid. And next thing you know, once you go fluid, you...
But the whispers don't end there. Enter Daniel Baldwin, one of the few industry insiders willing to speak on record about what he claims to know. According to Baldwin, there's more than just talk about these tapes. There's an all-out bidding war. High-powered attorneys, agents, and publicists are allegedly scrambling to make sure their clients' names never see the light of day in connection to these recordings. And the amounts being discussed? Astronomical. These aren't just payouts to make things go away. Long footage were to surface. Baldwin has described the situation as a feeding frenzy, with the stakes escalating by the hour.
To not be involved with a famous singer, to not come out, here's the price. And that they're just selling to the individuals that are in those. This is what I heard. They're selling those videos. So if you're Tommy X, and Tommy X is a big movie star, and he was at some of the Diddy parties, he was in one of those bedrooms with 3 other men, and he's happily married to a woman, and Tommy doesn't want that video to come out.
And here's the kicker. Baldwin claims that not everyone is trying to bury the footage. Some are leveraging it. According to him, the tapes have become a form of currency, a way for power players in Hollywood to maintain control over one another. It's leverage. Who owes who? Who can keep your secret? And at what cost? The kind of power dynamic that makes you wonder how many of Hollywood's most successful names are walking around with skeletons in their closets, or worse, on hidden hard drives. The deeper you dig, the more tangled this web becomes. Because Shannon's alleged involvement isn't just about one party or one tweet. It's about a pattern, a series of events that paint a picture of someone who may have been swept up into a world far more dangerous than he ever anticipated. And while Shannon has publicly denied attending these parties, claiming he wasn't big enough at the time to receive an invitation, the timeline raises questions. After all, his rise from NFL icon to media personality coincides suspiciously with the height of these parties' infamy. And let's not forget the whispers that attending these events and participating in their darker rituals was a kind of initiation into Hollywood's upper echelon. Could it be that Shannon's meteoric rise wasn't just about talent, but about that?
No, I get it. So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head.
And then there's the tension between what's been said publicly and what's allegedly happening behind the scenes. Shannon's representatives have been in full damage control mode, dismissing the allegations as baseless and accusing his accusers of orchestrating a smear campaign. But those denials haven't stopped the narrative from spiraling. With every new leak, every new statement from an insider like Baldwin or Zumba, the story grows more convoluted. And the public? They're watching, dissecting every move, every word, every tweet for clues. What's most chilling is the sense that this is just the beginning. Because for every claim that's been made, there are a dozen more questions waiting to be answered. Who else was at these parties? What role did Shannon really play? And perhaps most unsettling of all, what's still being hidden? Closing ranks when things get too messy. But as more people speak out, as more alleged victims come forward, it's getting harder to sweep this under the rug.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the
Hell
consequences
yeah.
when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at it.
And then there are the lawsuits. While Shannon's legal team has been quick to dismiss the claims against him as opportunistic, the details that have emerged are impossible to ignore. The accusations aren't just about inappropriate behavior. They're about control, manipulation, and an entire ecosystem of power and privilege he operates within. This isn't just a scandal, it's a reckoning. And with every new revelation, the stakes get higher, the questions more urgent. What happens when the tapes surface? What happens if they don't? And just when you think this scandal couldn't spiral any further, it does. Because now the focus is shifting to the intricate chess game being played behind the scenes, the legal maneuvers, the counterattacks, and the unsettling revelations that keep coming like a relentless tide. Shannon Sharpe, a man once revered for his outspoken wit and larger-than-life personality, is now fighting battles on every front. But the question isn't just about whether he can survive this, it's about how many more bombs will drop before it's all over.
Did you ever spend time with the guy? Did you ever meet Diddy?
I've met him before, yeah.
How was he?
Very nice guy, very smart, super business. He's very successful.
Let's start with the lawsuit itself. The allegations leveled against Shannon aren't just horrifying, they're detailed. They paint a picture of manipulation, control, and a relationship that veered into territory no one wants to imagine. The plaintiff, who's kept her identity shielded under the alias Jane Doe, has described scenarios that are as shocking as they are specific. According to her, the relationship began on seemingly normal terms, but it quickly devolved into a net. She claims Shannon wielded his fame like a weapon, demanding her time, her presence, her obedience, and when she tried to pull away, things escalated. Lawsuit documents are packed with accusations that read like the plot of a psychological thriller. Allegations of threats, intimidation, and a complete disregard for personal boundaries. And here's the kicker. Jane Doe's legal team has released audio clips, recordings they claim capture Shannon's voice in moments of unfiltered anger. In one particularly damning clip, the voice, allegedly Shannon's, can be heard making a chilling threat, something about choking her. Shannon's legal team, of course, has fired back, calling the recordings part of a smear campaign, and insisting they were taken out of context. Role-playing, they've called it. Fantasy. But even with that explanation, the public isn't buying it. The court of public opinion has already started to render its own verdict, and it's not looking good for Shannon.
Alrighty, y'all. So the Shannon Sharpe ESPN does he still keep his job conversation is beginning to, I was gonna say beginning to happen, but it's been happening, but I think now it's beginning to get louder because of different things that Attorney Busby has released, including the audios. So right now the conversation is, why is Shannon Sharpe still able to be?
Then there's the timing of all this. It's hard to ignore how perfectly, or perhaps strategically, these allegations have surfaced. Just as Shannon was on the cusp of signing a deal that would have cemented his place as one of the highest paid commentators in sports media, the lawsuit hits. Coincidence? Maybe. But in an industry as cutthroat as this one, where power plays and backroom deals are as common as morning coffee, plenty of people are speculating. Is this a legitimate claim for justice? Or is Shannon being targeted by forces that don't want to see him climb any higher? And yet, even if there's an agenda at play here, it doesn't mean the allegations are baseless. Far from it, because as more details emerge, it's becoming clear that this isn't just about one lawsuit, it's about a pattern. Multiple women have come forward with their own stories, their own claims of misconduct. Some are speaking through lawsuits, others through whispers to the press. One former girlfriend has alleged that Shannon's behavior was so controlling, so volatile, that she had to file for a restraining order just to feel safe. And while that particular case was eventually dismissed, the accusations are still out there, lingering like a dark cloud over Shannon's already crumbling image.
Throwing down, beginning to bring up past things that have happened with Shannon Sharpe, including a temporary restraining order that was filed against him back in 2010 from a woman that he was dealing with at the time, who accused him of assault. He said in different things. Now, this was dropped. It was dismissed, that restraining.
But here's where things take an even darker turn. Because it's not just Shannon's past relationships that are being scrutinized, it's his connections, his associations with certain high-profile individuals, the circles he's moved in, the events he's attended. The more you dig, the more you realize that this is about more than just one man's actions. It's about an entire ecosystem of power, secrecy, and silence. And at the center of it all is the question no one seems willing to answer. What are they all hiding? Take the rumors about those infamous gatherings, for example, the ones hosted by certain industry titans, where the guests guest list was as exclusive as it was suspicious. Shannon has denied attending these events, claiming he wasn't big enough at the time to be invited. But the timeline doesn't quite add up. Because while Shannon may not have been the media juggernaut he is now, he's rubbing shoulders with the kind of people who would have been on those lists. And if the leaked tweets and insider accounts are to be believed, he wasn't just attending, he was participating.
Will you help me? I want to hear your music, so I come over there and play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to you. That's what my assistant said. I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication.
And let's not overlook the tapes, the alleged recordings from those gatherings, the ones that are reportedly being used as leverage in a high-stakes game of silence and survival. While Shannon's name hasn't been directly linked to any specific footage, the mere possibility is enough to keep his team scrambling. Because if such tapes exist and if Shannon is on them, it's game over. Not just for his career, but for his reputation, his legacy, everything he spent decades building. And that's assuming the tapes never see the light of day. If they do, well, let's just say the fallout would make everything we've seen so far look like a warm-up act. Meanwhile, Shannon's legal team is pulling out all the stops. They've described the lawsuit as nothing more than an elaborate shakedown, a desperate attempt to extort money from a man at the height of his success. In the plaintiff's story, question her motives, and cast doubt on the timing of her claims. But even with this aggressive defense, the court of public opinion isn't easily swayed, because for every denial, every counterclaim, there's another story, another piece of evidence that keeps the scandal alive.
I'll tell you, I don't know how much, I don't like to say things that I know unless I see it. That there's a little difference, but was it discussed? Was there descriptions from people I know that were at those? Yes, but here's another thing. So how many of these big entertainment parties over the years and everything, with as successful as you are, have you been around? Does anyone ever come up to you at a certain hour and say, okay, it's time to go? At those parties they did.
And the ripple effects are already being felt. Shannon has stepped away from his role at ESPN, a move that's being framed as temporary, but feels anything but. His podcast empire, once a thriving platform for his larger-than-life personality, is now under scrutiny. Sponsors are reportedly pulling back, wary of being associated with a figure so mired in controversy. And his fans? They're divided. Some are standing by him, convinced this is all part of a coordinated attack. Others are walking away, disillusioned by the mounting allegations. But perhaps the most unsettling part of all this is the sense that we're only scratching the surface. Because for every story that's come out, for every piece of evidence that's been revealed, there are countless others that remain in the shadows. Whispers of more lawsuits, more victims, more secrets, waiting to expose man, but an entire system that's been built on silence, complicity, and the unchecked abuse of power.
I've lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that because the man card means everything.
So, what's next? Will Shannon fight his way back, or is this the beginning of the end for one of sports media's most recognizable figures? And what about the industry that allowed all this to happen? Because let's be clear, this isn't just about Shannon. It's about the culture that enabled him, the power structures that protected him, and the countless others who are still living in the shadows, waiting for their own stories to be told. Let us know what you think down below. Is this a takedown, a reckoning, or something even more sinister? Who's really calling the shots here? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and we'll catch you in the next one. Stay tuned, this story is far from over.